Started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live. We're so excited for you all to join us as we delve into a topic that, of course, if you're anywhere in the continental USA or globally, you know the conversation around retirement is something that is a paramount topic as of right now, and as of late in the media. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've received to do media press on what's happening with not just with the financial parts of retirement, but how that is impacting people's purpose, passions, and what they want to do in their next life chapter. And so this is such a good time to bring you all together, have a conversation around what does purpose and retirement have to do with our physiology, with our actual biology? What are some conversations around connection that I know you all are, having and dealing with your day-to-day life? And so before we dive into that, my wonderful colleague and featured guest today, I'm so excited to introduce is Dr. Aarti Soorya. And Aarti, go ahead and introduce yourself in your own terms. Who are you and what is the work that you do?
Thank you so much for having me on, Clay. I just love talking about this with you because you're so passionate about it and I'm so passionate about it. And so I'm a physician and I was in the conventional medical setting for a long time and then slowly kind of just started to feel like I had other ideas about medicine that I just felt like the structure of it was a little bit constricting for me. So I went and did additional training in functional medicine. And then after that, have evolved more into like the nervous system and seeing the impact of how we perceive the world, how that impacts our physiology. And that ties all into, you know, connection, how we're brought up,
Mm,
cultural, socioeconomic stuff, that all of that has a huge impact on your health. And
mm.
so very passionate about sharing that. And I get to do that with you, which is great. Yeah, kind of has led me to this path. And so that also, people go through different stages in their life and one of them is transitioning into retirement. How does that affect your health and what are you going to do to help maintain that? And it all
Mm.
comes down to how do you take care of your nervous system.
Yeah. And so this is why I'm so excited to talk to you, especially around the nervous system pieces of it all. I did a national radio tour a few weeks ago that's turned into another interview to another interview.
Mhm.
And the conversation that people love to bring me on is how do we deal with the emotional, the mental clarity, the well-being, and our physical body when we are transitioning into our next life chapter, especially if there are unhealed things that we are really grappling with. And one of the questions that really stood out to me a few weeks ago was what happens to us from a physiological level when we are no longer going into an office space and we're not connecting with people and connecting with community. And so I want to put that as the first question to you to hear what your perspective is on that and what we can learn from the biology of it all.
Oh, great question. So, there's a huge nerve in the body called the vagus nerve, which connects the brain to the body. And there are two portions of the vagus nerve. One is called ventral and one is called dorsal.
Mhm,
When we are in a ventral vagal state, what that means is that we feel safe, we're
mm,
connected to other beings, and we're able to go through life with, you feel like you have agency and you're enjoying it and you can think clearly, your physiology is working, it's humming beautifully, you're sleeping well, mood is good, digestion is good. And so that comes with connection. One part of being in a ventral vagal state comes with connection. And so when we take that connection away, that safety that we would normally get through connection is now kind of subconsciously it's gone, right? So that can feel like a threat to the nervous system when you're no longer, in community or some big changes happened that can feel like a threat, even though theoretically there is no threat, there's no tiger attacking you. But
Mm.
subconsciously, because we are wired for connection, now the system senses threat. When we sense threat, the blood flow only goes to like, your heart, your brain, things that are going to keep you alive. But blood flow is diverted away from organs because that's not priority, right? You need to run away from the tiger, which is the priority. And so, therefore, symptoms, any symptom that kind of pops up can be related to not feeling safe. And so
Wow.
that's how biologically wired we are together.
Artie, you mentioned like this is something that could happen subconsciously. How do people know if this is actually happening to them?
If you have a new onset of symptoms, mood changes, sleep dysregulation, you're feeling like you're anxious, any symptom that can pop up all of a sudden, or gradually even over time, like the more you're not going into the office and you're adjusting to a new life and you're no longer connected with people, I would say pay attention to your mood and
Mhm.
any symptom that's popped up that's new. Don't brush it off.
Wow. So, what then? Because the epidemic of loneliness is just running, rampant. I don't have to tell you that as a physician, as a coach. The first thing that people say to me is, I don't feel connected to the community, or I don't feel connected to, a sense of a group because I'm no longer in that traditional job, or even if you're in connection with someone over Zoom or whatever the case may be. And I always start with asking them, are they in connection with themselves first? And
That's
so, from a biological standpoint, what does that is that something that actually matters to you in medicine? And go
100%. I actually think most of the things that I'm seeing are a result of disconnection with ourselves.
ahead.
So it's really, really nice to hear that you're asking that because, our lives here are really busy and they're stressful. And to get through it, there are adaptations that the nervous system makes to kind of push aside whatever we're feeling so that you can meet the deadline, you can meet the relationship stuff that you have to do for or other obligations that you need to do. So because it's so busy, we actually are not in tune with ourselves. So symptoms that might be coming up, I look at it from symptom standpoint because I'm a physician, but inklings that might be like a little fatigue or headache or subtle digestion changes people brush off to aging or something, but really it's actually that they're not listening to their body actually telling them that there's something that needs to shift or awareness that needs to be brought in. So when we mentioned the vagus nerve earlier, 20% of it comes from the brain to the body and it innervates, your heart, your lungs, all of your digestion, but 80% comes from the body to the brain. So the body
Whoa.
is a huge vehicle for understanding and sensing the environment that is below the level of our conscious awareness. And so we've made it all about the mind, in our culture, but really we got to listen to the body because that holds the clue, which can then help calm the mind down. So I think one of the biggest things that I see is that people are too scared to feel because it's uncomfortable. And because it's uncomfortable, we keep pushing it away. But an emotion is only meant to be 90 seconds. That's it. And the goal, I think, for a lot of people, and I've had to learn this myself, is, how do we be with that emotion, no matter how uncomfortable it is, and bring safety to it so that you're allowed to feel it and then let it go.
And so, one of the first things that a lot of clients say to me, and you definitely see it in the pilot film just beginning, is, I had no idea that this was even here to begin with.
Hmm.
And I've been going and going and going. And for folks who haven't seen the pilot film, I encourage you to do it. But when the protagonist, Sharon, she says profoundly that because I had such a demanding job, I was a wife, I was a mom, I was just going and going and going and going. I had no idea that there were even things even happening around me because I ignored all the symptoms. And as we're replaying a lot of her story, she said, well, actually, I did feel something in the pit of my stomach that sort of told me you're ignoring too much of yourself. You're putting, not enough of yourself in the forefront. What I mean by that, a lot of people, they were just going to let these things just go on and on. These symptoms to just move, move, move. What would you advise folks to do to pause and reflect on, I need to make a decision to put myself first?
I just start with a simple set your alarm on your phone
Uh,
5 times a day because you're going to forget. So, and that's just a quick body scan. Go from the top of your head all the way down because then you'll be like, oh, I wasn't even breathing. Like, because we're working on the computer, we get so stuck in that. And that actually is also like so much focus for long periods of time that can create a fight or flight state, right? So just pausing and doing a quick body scan, noticing is there tension anywhere? Is there pain anywhere? Is there tightness, constriction? What is my breath doing? You don't have to change anything, but just building that awareness that helps bring the neural connections between the brain and the body and the body and the brain. When you strengthen that, that's when you can understand what your body's telling you.
So it's all interconnected.
All interconnected.
Wow. What would you say to someone? A radio host asked me this a few weeks ago. He was like, you've been stressing the importance of community, but what do you say to folks who have been in retirement for a year and a half, 2 years, and they've been so far out of creating community, they don't know how to do that at this particular point in time?
Yeah, I would say follow your curiosity. So if there's a certain hobby that you wanted to try that you never got a chance, or a sport, or um, anything that piques your interest, follow that curiosity because that will lead you to people who are interested in the same things and likely, the same energy that you craving. Then you can build a community through that.
And so, Artie, when folks are transitioning from their traditional job into retirement, I was reading an article in Time, and there's a professor at Duke University. His name is escaping me right now, but he wrote the book. I believe it's called Golden Years.
Hmm.
James Chappell, that's his
Hmm.
name.
Hmm.
And he talked about a time in the 50s and the 60s where a lot of corporations would allow their workforce to plan for retirement, meaning if you were about to retire in 2 years, you would take a month or two off at the end of your year to figure out what that process was. If you're now in the year of retirement, people would be able to take an additional month off. And back then, during the 50s and 60s, was unpaid time, but they actually had calculated time to
Yeah.
transition. In our article that we co-authored, you talked a lot about silence and boredom being an opportunity for a lot of folks because you're just now leaving a 9 to 5, whether it's corporate, not-for-profit, entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, and you're transitioning into this next role, but you're just like, I need to go, 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 go. But you emphasize silence and boredom as actual productivity. So explain to us folks who are like, wait a minute, I don't need to slow down in order to keep this
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
So looking at it neurologically, the when we're active and thinking and always thinking and going, it's like a beta brainwave state. So your brainwaves are pretty active because you're critically thinking. I got to figure this out. What's my next plan? Da, da, da. When we slow down the brain waves is when the new ideas come in. So I think, I don't know if it was Albert Einstein or Thomas Jefferson. It's like the idea will never come in the same frequency. The answer will never come in the same frequency as the problem. So the
Wow.
problems are always when we're like frazzled, we can't think, and we're trying to go, go, go. It's counterintuitive, but slowing down is actually going to help your creativity more. I think the idea of the light bulb came in the alpha theta state of the brain wave where they had slowed down the brain waves to allow that idea to come in. So we are wired in this culture to be like go, 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 go. But
Right.
but to slow down is actually where the magic is at.
So the science, wait, okay. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying what we're doing is we're slowing down those critical thinking brain waves and we're slowing them down to alpha, theta. This is actually kind of where meditation happens, or when we're slowing down the brain waves, even the quick body scan that you do throughout the day, that's going to help slow down the brain. When we're in this kind of active, that's fight or flight. You
Mhm.
cannot think critically in fight or flight. You cannot um, have a good grasp of what's actually going on because you're only seeing the threat. You're not seeing the rest of the world, what's happening. So when we slow it down intentionally, now you can see it with clear eyes and your next steps, what may be coming, or the next idea you want to pursue. I don't think I've shared this with you before, but like a hand model of the brain that might be helpful is like
Yeah.
if this is your brain stem, this is the emotional center of your brain called the amygdala or limbic system. And then this is your prefrontal cortex. So this is your critical thinking area. So
Mhm.
when we're constantly like, I don't know what to do, and I got to figure this out, and what's next, and this meeting and that meeting, should I pursue this? Should I pursue that? It's called flipping the lid. So you have taken out the portion of your brain that helps you emotionally regulate and all of that, and you're running purely on your survival mechanisms.
Wow.
So when we intentionally ground or come into the body and understand what our emotions are saying and not scared of it, we build resiliency by bringing back the prefrontal cortex, which helps you keep your brain and body in a regulated state.
And so not resiliency by what we perceive as keep going, 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 which is the
Right.
cultural narrative of you can only be resilient if you're able to show how well you deal under stress and how fast you can get things done.
Right. And we talked about this in the article where we were like, yes, you need stress to make you stronger, but you equally need recovery. You cannot be Superman if you don't recover.
And that then leads folks to not only be able to think creatively about what it is that they want to do, but other creative aspects, just literally in their life.
I think about how many people, even relationships, right? Regardless of like, if you're running like this, like it's going to be like two heads pounding, like you're never going to get anywhere, right? So that's why if both, people or, the community or whatever, if they're everyone's a little bit more in their bodies and regulated, now the conversation can be totally different.
That leads me to in sort of the entrance conversations when I'm coaching someone, I kid you not, 7 times out of 10, it always starts with, I've been doing this for 70 years, 75 years, 60 years. There's no way that I think what you're going to offer
Mhm.
me is going to help me shift a pattern and pathology that's been going and going and going and going. And even if I introduce this conversation to them and explain it from a physiological standpoint, that could even help support these older adults in this critical stage of their life be able to understand that you actually can shift your mindset by shifting your physiology. Is that
Totally, 100%.
how do we then get people to a space where they're feeling safe enough to make those changes, especially with that conversation around I've been doing this for such a long period of time. I don't know if I what safety is like at 70, 75 when I've been in fight or flight for the last 40, 30 years.
Yeah, so I think this is where community really comes in. So if you can find something that is fun for you,
Mhm.
because fun is what we activates the ventral vagal state of the nervous system, and that's where you feel safe. That is where you repair. That is where it's beautiful because then it's subconscious too. So you don't have to feel like you're making an effort. Like I gotta figure my nervous system out and I got to do this and I got to figure out my trauma and all this stuff. If you build in fun, automatically that subconsciously that's going to help build repair in, which will then help you then go and do like figure out the more internal work stuff that you might have to do
Mhm.
because Otherwise, it's too uphill. It's too it feels too daunting to do that stuff. So by fun, I don't mean like, you know, recreational drugs or anything like that. What I'm meaning is like good, safe fun in like, dancing or music or whatever like creative outlet you might enjoy.
Yeah. Speaking of creativity and fun, on CBS Sunday morning, I don't know if you've seen the sort of article that's been going around as well as the clip from the actual show. There was a doctor on talking about how creativity supports not only, eradicating the loneliness, but it helps you with depression. It helps you with all of the things that people who are older adults in retirement that they tend to experience. And like she's like, if you can find a creative outlet, all of the things that you are experiencing, science says if it supports you. Is that your experience as well?
100%. And I think it allows that expression of those emotions that we might have suppressed.
Mm,
The arts are a beautiful way to express all of that without having to necessarily talk about it. Um, and so it's just a natural thing that was built into cultures before. Like you would see all these cultures before music was always there, whether through prayer or through like satsang where people would get together and sing together
mm,
or dancing together in groups, drumming, whatever it may be, that was already built into society, and that's been taken away over like the more industrialized we've become and productivity based we become. But bringing those aspects in really has a huge effect on the nervous system.
Speaking of just effects on the nervous system in general, I would love if you can share with our community the work that you're doing with yoga and nidra,
Mhm.
and how that could really support folks who are making this big transition to be able to have something that to still their mind. And also, what are some of the physiological effects that you're seeing through this work? So introduce us to it and tell us all the good stuff.
Sure. So Yoga Nidra is a sleep-based meditation where there's use of breath and body awareness techniques to help kind of calm the mind down automatically. Like the beauty of it is that you don't have to do anything. It's a practice of non-doing, which is what our culture actually needs more of. It's counterintuitive, but we actually need more non-doing because the body is based on balance, so when we tip the balance in one way or the other, that's when you see symptoms. And so it's a sleep-based meditation, so all you have to do is you lie down and someone else is guiding you through the breath and body awareness techniques, though it's mimicking sleep. And so sleep is your best drug. This is where mental, emotional, physical repair happens. And so we're taking the biological effects of sleep in this meditation technique and condensing it into like a 30 to 45-minute session. And that gives you about 3 to 4 hours, like equivalent of 3 to 4 hours of sleep. So it's a beautiful way to incorporate that into your daily life because it replenishes your neurotransmitters. It helps clear cortisol, excess cortisol that you might have from stress, physical repair. It also helps the mood. So it automatically over time decreases that expression of the amygdala, which is like your fear center of the brain, that also starts to calm down. So
Wow.
then over time, it's like, ooh, I can build resiliency from not doing stuff, which is great. And in our culture, we are so stimulated with all of our senses. It's actually a practice where you withdraw the senses so that your energy expenditure is going more towards repair.
And if you're going more towards repair, you're getting more resilient by the not doing. In my line of work, I see it as being able to get you towards the answers and the clarity that you want for yourself. When people come to see me, especially at this stage in life, they tend to say, well, this is what I want to do in, retirement in my next life chapter. A lot of people don't like to use the word retirement,
Sure. Yeah.
and I always say, well, you're coming to me at the end, but let's start at the very beginning. And we have to unlearn a lot of things. And by doing a lot of this unlearning and just being with ourselves, a lot of like childhood patterns and pathologies end up coming up. We are supporting folks with closing the gap between their past and their present so that they can then get to where they want to go with such clarity. And it sounds
Mhm.
like this practice gives them sustainable clarity a lot of the time for
Totally.
various issues that people are facing, especially at this age.
Totally. And what I love about it is that it's not one more thing to, it doesn't feel like something you have to do. Like you
Right.
actually like enjoy doing it. Most people like lying down and feeling
Hmm.
refreshed.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's why I like it. And then over time, you'll just see that even your emotional reactivity to things changes. You're naturally able to handle more on your plate without it rocking you or feeling overwhelmed. So it's a really beautiful, beautiful practice.
Before we end, I have to talk to you about the fitness aspect of
Yes.
not only creating a community but also the depression piece. Artie, I cannot tell you every client that have come through the door and they have just started to either lift weights, to walk. I do wellness walks and it's all over my Instagram all
Mhm.
the
I love
time,
those.
and do resistance training and things like that. They always say, because after you have a deep dive with me, you need to be able to release a lot of that energy. You need to get out in nature and have these different
Yes.
experiences. Folks are literally saying, I have never worked out a day in my life. But now I'm making it such a big point because I'm seeing that there is a difference in my emotions, not only just physically, but also mentally and emotionally at this stage of life, whether, you're in your 60s, 70s, or, early 80s. Why is working out and fitness so important? And also that element of getting outside as well.
Oh, yeah. So whenever we contract our muscles, we create chemicals called myokines. And those myokines then travel up to the brain, which create brain-derived neurotropic factors called BDNF. Very geeky word, but that helps with your mood, your ability to learn, your ability to adapt and create new neural patterns. So literally, you're creating your own pharmaceuticals when you move. And the same thing, you create endorphins as well. Same thing. Those are going to help with your mood, your energy. And when we're out in nature, the double like bonus with that is that the sounds of nature also give a signal of safety to the nervous system. And so you're able to kind of stress yourself, right? But within the confines of a safe network or environment. So this is actually one way to build resiliency. So like we said before, like you can't just like be there and then expect things you're going to get stronger. Like you do have to stress yourself in the confines of what we call like your window of tolerance for nervous system capacity, but you also have to recover. And
Mm.
the thing with nature is that you are scanning the environment. You kind of have horizontal eye movements.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
keeps the amygdala calm. So if you think about when we're always scrolling the up and down of the eye movements, that creates more stress. So it's like the natural scanning that we would do when you do your wellness walk or stuff, that automatically is creating a beautiful balance in the brain
Wow.
and bilateral stimulation.
Okay. And so what about the actual like resistance training of it all? Like why does that matter as we age and how can that be utilized for supporting people in like their next chapter and thinking about those things?
Yeah, so muscle is your organ of longevity. As we age, we lose muscle. And when we lose muscle, we lose ability of controlling our blood sugar
Mm.
and your cholesterol and all of that. So from a physiological standpoint, you want to maintain your muscle so that physiologically you can handle the food that you're eating, and so that it's not creating disease in the long run. And then also, like, it's just going to keep you mobile, right? It's going to prevent falls. That can lead to a fracture, which can be huge. It's really scary when you're older and undergoing like a surgery for a hip replacement or something. So it's just going to keep you out of the doctor's office, which is what I like, because
Mhm.
all of your risk factors start to increase with age. So you really want to maintain that flexibility and mobility and strength as we age.
What I love about this conversation is everything, every action that we take, every intentional action can lead to a restorative action, could lead to a more resilient action, could lead to a more peaceful action, could lead to better purpose. And the
Hmm.
belonging piece and what our biology is telling us from what I'm hearing you say, Artie, is it's all interconnected. It's interconnected through community. It's interconnected through, folks who are experiencing loneliness and depression. It's interconnected through our exercise, through our ability to feel safe in the world. And so it's checking your symptoms, checking within yourself, and making a different decision to go in a different way is what all
Yes.
this just really seems to me that we're saying.
Yeah. And I think one big point is no one can do it for you.
Mhm.
So it has to come from within you. That change, that will, it has to come from within you.
Absolutely. So, Artie, where can folks find you, first of all? And then also, especially for older adults, I know you take many folks in your practice, yoga nidra practice, but where can folks look you up if they want to experience this all with you?
Yeah, so I'm Dr.Asoorya on Instagram and Aarti Soorya MD on Facebook, and then Aarti Soorya on LinkedIn. So thank you for the work that you're doing because it's, I think, giving people who are older hope, and they're not just throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's so much of life to live still, and this is actually where most of their wisdom is. Like they've lived a lot of life, and this is where they really do have a lot to still share.
And thank you for being one of our advisors on our
My pleasure.
actual board and all the work that you're doing. I know there will be partnership stuff for us coming up in the future. So thanks for everyone who tuned in today to this conversation. So you can learn more about me by visiting justbeginning.info, as well as the actual pilot film. You can look at the trainer programs, you can look at the trailer, and also what we've been up to. And so again, that's at justbeginning.info, where you can learn more about me and Artie's information. I'll be sure to have at the base of this conversation in the show notes. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Artie.
Thank you.